This week on Quality Digest Live, we'll be talking about the science of measurement with Chuck Pfeffer, Chairperson of the Coordinate Metrology Society.
Plus, we'll explain the meaning of the term relational autonomy. That and more when we come back.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for May 18th, 2012. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Mike Richmond, publisher of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest Editor-in-Chief, Dirk Ducharme. Well, here is an example of why we should all care about metrology. This was Metrology Week, and I thought we'd give a good little example of how it affects all of us. So, about 19 million barrels of oil move through the U.S. petroleum supply chain every day. That's about $2 billion worth of petroleum moving from sellers to buyers every 24 hours. So even a small measurement error can add up to a whole lot of money when you're moving that amount of expensive material. So to ensure the accuracy of petroleum measurement, the U.S. petroleum industry relies on volume measurements traceable to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST. So customers bring in stainless steel field test containers to be calibrated at NIST, and these are called cans, and they'll range in capacity from 4 liters to maybe 8,000 liters. In turn, these cans are used to calibrate various mechanisms that measure the movement of volume per unit of time. These provers, as they're called, in turn are used to calibrate flow meters, including the flow meters that are installed in the gas pumps at your service station. So from really large down to really small. Right. Now, with gas at $4 a gallon, when you fill your car with 10 gallons of gas, you want to know that you're getting your money's worth, right? So state law specifies that the accuracy of products delivered to the consumer at the pump have to be at a 0.5% uncertainty. So what that means is that the worst error you should see at the pump for a 10-gallon fill would be about 6 ounces, 6.5 ounces, or about 20 cents worth of gas. And if we weren't doing those checks, and this all is metrology based, you could be off by a lot more than that, and you could be either spending a lot more money, or if it was in your favor, you could be getting more gas for cheap, and that would be messing up the service station guy, wouldn't it?
That's right. But we know how this works, so usually the
it is usually the other way around.
Getting into the shorts, right? Great, cool. Thanks, Dirk. Okay, also in the news this week is the release of an interesting new book, Equipment Management in the Post-Maintenance Era, written by Karen Pang and published by Productivity Press.
Post-maintenance.
Post-maintenance. You know, some of us here scratch our head at that term.
I did.
At the phrase post-maintenance era. I mean, will we ever really abdicate our need to properly maintain our systems?
It doesn't make a lot of sense off the bat. Okay.
But the subtitle, A New Alternative to Total Productive Maintenance, gives a little more detail about what this book is really actually talking about, and we'll get into here. Total Productive Maintenance, or TPM, has been around for 40 years. TPM is a part of lean manufacturing, and in a nutshell, it attempts to minimize equipment downtime and thereby ensure adequate flow throughout your production process. All well and good.
Right.
The new alternative to TPM discussed in this book employs cutting-edge computerized systems and robotic technologies to help minimize the fallible human element in these processes. The result can be referred to as the emerging microchip era in equipment management. Very interesting. Okay. The book offers a brief history of the field, points out a key specific flaw in current setups, and provides a detailed roadmap for those seeking to understand and help their organizations enter this aforementioned microchip era. For more information on the story, including a link to the Productivity Press website where you can order the book, check out the article just below the player page right here.
So by post-maintenance, he just means that a lot of the smarts for the maintenance are
being built
into the equipment themselves.
Right. So he's trying to get the human element out of this equation a little bit. It's interesting.
It's not that we're beyond maintenance. It's just a lot of it is taken out of our hands, maybe a little invisible to us, which may or may not be a good thing.
Oh, yeah, you could look at it both ways, but the argument that he makes in this book is pretty compelling for why it is a good thing. So check that one out.
All right. Well, you know, this has been a fun week for us at Quality Digest, as we've had a chance to support World Metrology Week all week long. Actually, World Metrology Day is this Sunday. Yep. And one of our long-standing partners, the Coordinate Metrology Society. So, as many of you know, the CMS is the organization behind the annual Coordinate Metrology Systems Conference, or the CMSC, which convenes again this year, July, in New Orleans. So, and we are fortunate to have on the show with us today CMSC Chairperson Chuck Pfeffer, to talk about us a little bit about metrology and World Metrology Day. Chuck is also Director of Product Management for 3D Imaging at FARO Technologies. So hello, Chuck.
Hi, Dirk.
Hey,
Hi,
there you
Good
Hey,
to see
how's
you.
it going?
How are you, Chuck?
Well, thanks for joining us, Chuck. So tell us a little bit, just briefly, right up front, what is World Metrology Day, and how did it all get started?
Okay, well, thanks for starting me off with a history question. You know, I went to school for engineering to avoid history. It's not my strong suit, but World Metrology Day basically is an anniversary. It dates back to the signing of the Meter Convention, which was on May 20th in 1875. So 137th anniversary of that signing. It basically set the framework for global collaboration in the science of measurement and created worldwide uniformity for measurement. It was created by the International Bureau of Weights and Measures, which is in France, and today it's recognized by national standards organizations in 80 countries, including some that you already mentioned today. NIST is one, NPL in the UK, PTB in Germany, and 80 other countries.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we've talked about on this show, and I know is a big issue for you guys there at the CMSC, and actually for any of the companies that work in metrology, is that the discipline of metrology is slowly graying. The people who work in it are retiring, moving out of the field, and that there is maybe job opportunities that are opening up in the field. So tell us a little bit about that aspect and the career opportunities in metrology.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you come to our conference, you see kind of the core group from the metrology professionals around the world, and it's definitely a graying workforce. But what's interesting is the growth that we see comes from the introduction of new technologies that make it easier for people to deploy metrology, and cheaper and easier. So you have this new group that's not as educated on the background of metrology, but has a capability of performing the tasks that were performed before by some seasoned veterans. So it's an interesting mix, and it makes for a very interesting conference for us. We see the growth very clearly. We have 40 to 50 vendors typically exhibiting at our conference, and over half of them have been actively recruiting through our communications this year.
And I'll know we'll get to this in a little bit, but you just kind of identified a sword that cuts both ways. You mentioned that the equipment is getting easier to use, and that kind of leads to an issue, doesn't it, where it seems so easy to use that it's almost like an unskilled person can use it, and that isn't really the case, right?
Yeah, well, it's easy to use means that the training to understand how to use the specific equipment is pretty minimal, and the computers and the programs that go along with it have also been simplified. But the key background that you need to understand how to set up a measurement job, how to understand a drawing, how to know what's important for a part to fit together or to operate properly, that's still something that needs to be understood to get the results from this great new equipment. So there is a missing piece of the puzzle, I'd say, and that's something that CMS is focusing on specifically in the last 4 years to try and rectify that.
Okay, and what kind of background, I mean, since you kind of brought it up, what kind of background would be required if somebody's interested in getting into metrology or to being a metrology technician or engineer? And I mean, is this a college education? Is it a tech school or vocational school type thing?
Well, starting at the tech school, vocational school level, I'd say that a basic math understanding is important. So I think coming in even at the technician level, understanding math and some basic geometry is important. And for the professional level, a mechanical engineering or oftentimes any engineering field could lead itself to being a successful metrologist.
Okay. Now tell me a little bit then. What is the CMS doing? I mean, you guys have got some pretty exciting. Over the last couple of years, you guys have been working on something that's pretty exciting, and I think is getting one huge step closer this year that's going to be talked about at the CMS. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm sort of hinting at that here, that we're taking some action to help fill that gap. This is our 28th year for the CMSC, for the conference from the CMS, And just in case not everybody's aware, the conference showcases the greatest that's available in 3D portable metrology technology, bringing together the advanced users to share their experiences, and more recently, the new users to learn from their experience. And what we've heard in the last 5-10 years is that there's really a need for a certification program, for a way for operators, technicians, and professionals to be able to show that they know metrology and that they're qualified to do the work that they're being asked to do. And since 2009, we took this vision and we've progressed to a point where we're in the home stretch now. And our goal is to actually release the certification program by the end of this year. This year at the conference, we're going to be rolling out a pilot exam. So each day of the conference, there'll be a dedicated time where our members can take this pilot exam for free. And it will basically give us the feedback that we need to finalize the exam so we can move forward before the end of the year.
And do you actually have the curriculum and so forth for the training and so forth that's been lined out?
The training is not lined up yet, and actually the certification committee is not actually creating the training programs, but we will define the curriculum, and it will be available for third parties to offer training for anyone who feels they need a formal training program to prepare for the exam. Additionally, this exam is going to cover what we call a core, the core body of knowledge for portable metrology. Going beyond that, we'd like to incorporate the different technologies that are used. And so that is going to be more of an interactive, hands-on type training, type test environment. And we're also testing some ideas for that at the conference as well. We're going to have a very large booth space, 20 by 60 booth space with at least six stations set up. And you'll be able to go and be tested with some of the portable metrology equipment that we show at the show. I think we have arms and trackers at least. So you can actually run through a test with the portable equipment, and that'll help us understand what works and what doesn't work. And the idea is to talk about the importance of practical testing at the conference.
Okay, so I think this was an important element that came up early on when you guys were discussing certification, that it had to be more than just knowledge base, had to be more than just the basics of measurement and stuff. You really had to have some practical skills on specific types of instruments. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that is an important part of what we want to do. What we've learned from our partner, we've partnered with ASPRS, who's a photogrammetry group that has a certification in place. So we're sort of able to learn from what they've done over the past decade with their program. And we're taking baby steps because they have a single core body of knowledge which is difficult enough to manage. And as we add technology, we're going to be adding complexity to the process. So we're going to roll out this core, and then we're going to assess the complexity of adding the technology. We're definitely going to add it. It's just a matter of it might not be next year. We'll see how it goes. But this is also the first step in testing that with this importance of practical testing part of the conference that we're going to have this year.
And when do you, just real quick, when do you expect to actually have a finalized, I guess, curriculum and certification, like set up and ready to go and start rolling it out? Is that something like next year? Or?
Our goal is to have that before the end of this year. Wow. So at the conference, the attendees, the members will get in their bag some of the documents that we're going to vote on as far as the requirements to take the exam and some of the legal items that need to be understood before you become certified. And finally, the pilot exam, which we hope everyone can take during the conference. We'll be able to use that to establish the cut score and determine which questions are the best and which ones have to be in the test. And that'll lead to us rolling out the program by the end of the year.
Now, Chuck, today is Friday, May 18th, and I believe that today is the cutoff date for your early bird registration for CMSC in New Orleans. How are registrations going so far? What should people know about attending the show? What do they need to do?
Yeah, well, I'd say that I think our choice of New Orleans seems to have been a good one. We have tremendous demand so far. Our hotel rooms are going fast, and our registration is filling up as well. So today is the last day for the early bird, and I'd also urge you to book your room. If you're planning to be at the conference and you want to be in the beautiful Roosevelt Hotel, you should book your room soon because the rooms are definitely going fast. We expect a very big crowd this year.
That's great.
New Orleans, fun.
New Orleans, yeah. And www.cmsc.org is the website.
Sure.
I actually wrote a story that appeared in yesterday's Quality Digest Daily about World Metrology Week and the CMSC. So if you want to click on that, my story link is right below the player page here. You can navigate out from the links in there out to the CMSC homepage as well. Find out about membership and find out about how to attend the show this year in New Orleans. So make sure you check that out. Now, Chuck, before we let you go, of course, this was World Metrology Week, and we ran a series of trivia questions all week. We had a lot of response to that. A lot of people answered questions correctly, and we had a fun time with it. We gave away daily prizes, daily Kindles from some of our sponsors. And today, we are announcing our grand prize winner.
That's right.
Sponsored by Geomagic. And Geomagic is sponsoring let me get this right, a 3D Connection Space Pilot Pro, which is a 3D mouse. Very cool.
Yep.
For great for CAD applications and gaming, a lot of great applications for that. So, Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you and announce our grand prize winner of that wonderful prize, who we now are ready to announce. So go right ahead.
All right. So again, I'd like to thank Geomagic again for sponsoring this the grand prize, and the winner is Jonas Mitchell of Panasonic Avionics. Congratulations to Jonas and thanks
Mitchell.
again to Geomagic. I'd also like to thank the other sponsors who sponsored the 4 other giveaways we had this week. It would be Brunson, Hubs, TriMet, and A&M Precision Measurement. And again, of course, thank you to Geomagic and congratulations, Jonas.
That's great.
Terrific.
Well, thank you, Chuck, and hey, thanks for joining us. We certainly, again, encourage everyone out there to check out CMSC this year. We'll see you, Chuck, definitely in New Orleans in a couple of months, if not before, and thanks again for joining us today on the show.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to seeing everyone in New Orleans.
We'll see you then. Thanks, man.
All right.
All right. Well, hey,
that was a good week.
Yeah,
a lot of interesting stories.
We had fun because we had not only the contest, but we had a lot of these interesting applications, which were really unique, and we had some fun games and some fun.
Yeah, people just kind of let the whole metrology thing slide by. I mean, it seems a little geeky, a little nerdy, and you just don't realize that we can't do anything in today's modern life without some sort of precision measurement. I mean, it affects everything from the gas pump to what we're doing right here in the studio.
Flying a plane,
flying a plane especially.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So yeah, check that out, and yeah, definitely consider attending CMSC. It's a really good show. We've been longtime supporters of that, and we go every year. So
okay, so from the hardware to the software
to the soft skills,
the soft squishy wear,
soft squishy stuff.
We call it squishy wear.
This with soft squishy vending machines. Isn't that what you referred to it as in a recent?
We call management articles.
That's right.
Squishy wear.
Well, this was really a cool piece. This was something that we all of us here enjoyed a lot. The article's name is Six Sigma and More. It's written by David Schwinn, and it appeared in Tuesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. Now, if you've been following his column over the past several months, David and his wife Carol are writing a book called The Transformational Workplace, and much of the material was gathered during a year-long globe-hopping sabbatical. I need one of those. And Carol and David traveled the world. They met a lot of interesting people. One of the people they met was a young lady by the name of, I want to get this right, Michaela Mycroft. And Kaylee, who is 17 now, was born with cerebral palsy. And in her quest for greater autonomy, Kaylee and her friends, this is several years ago now, Kaylee and her friends started a fundraising campaign to buy Kaylee a motorized wheelchair, which obviously was able to give her a lot more autonomy, a lot more self-sufficiency and mobility. Now, out of that sprung what has become known as the Kaylee campaign, which now helps more than 3,000 disabled children across the world, not only in South Africa, but across the world. And the idea is to give these children, again, greater self-sufficiency, autonomy, mobility. And in November of last year, November of 2011, Kaylee, in fact, was awarded the International Children's Peace Prize. This is a terrific story. It's really great. Check out the article. It's great. Again, it's Six Sigma and More by David Schwinn. The link is right below the player page right here. Well, David takes this, and of course, he is a quality assurance professional, and he deals with Six Sigma a lot. He takes this into the realm of the workplace, and he talks about what's known as relational autonomy, the concept of relational autonomy in the workplace. And relational autonomy, really what it means is it can be described as the ability to pursue one's chosen goals and aspirations while recognizing that the goals that we choose and the actions that we take are influenced by our social and cultural surroundings. In other words, you have autonomy, but you have autonomy within the framework of the culture, within the framework of the organization. And in some organizations, there's a heck of a lot of autonomy, and maybe there's too much. In other organizations, there's a little bit less, and it's a little more focused. So the idea of relational autonomy as it plays out in the workplace is understanding the culture in which you find yourself, understanding the culture of your organization and what you need to do to achieve the greatest possible autonomy within that framework. The idea, of course, the bottom line underpinning this is the idea that autonomy, the ability to define your own work, to do it in the way that you as a professional judge is the best way to do it, and have that buy-in, have the ownership, and feel as though you yourself control your environment to a certain extent, is tremendously beneficial. We've seen so many of these environments where it's not that, where people really don't have a lot of choice in the matter. It's do it this way and that's it. And don't ask questions, and if you do, you're a squeaky wheel, you know, and you're going to be maybe get out of here. So I like this, and I like the way that David brought this idea forward by looking at Kaylee Mycroft, who is a person who, you know, let's be honest, most of us don't have to deal with cerebral palsy. I mean, most of us have much lower burdens to autonomy in our lives, yet we're imprisoned by some of the same factors that imprison Kaylee, that we think we can't. We think people look at us and they assume we're a certain thing because you're a factory worker or you do this or that. You need to go beyond that. You need to look at your environment, again, within the framework of what your organization can do, and have autonomy, and talk to your bosses and talk to your management and say, hey, I have ideas for doing this. I want to do this. I have an idea for improving our process or whatever. And hopefully you can help increase the autonomy, not just for your own job, but maybe for your entire organization.
I think he says something that's really important is there's two aspects to this, and I think we've talked about this before. You have to be in an environment where it's okay to kind of go out on your own, kind of explore some things. It's got to be okay. You've got to have kind of that permission. But on the other hand, you also have to be willing to push it.
Yep.
And you have to have the, for lack of a better word, gumption to ask. And I think, unfortunately, if people have come up in environments that have been highly restrictive, very command and control kind of environments, even if they're put into an autonomous environment, they're afraid to. They're afraid. I guess is for lack of a better word. They're afraid to push the limits. They're afraid to go to their boss and say, "Hey, I've got this idea. I'd like to do it." You know, and it's. I think it's. The managers have got to be putting the vibe out there that it's okay. If you have an autonomous environment, your employees got to know that you have an autonomous environment.
Right. Well, and again, the idea that's relational, that certain organizations have different strictures and structures. That, for instance, in a media company, there's going to be a lot of autonomy. In an FDA-regulated meatpacking plant or in a pharmaceutical environment, there's going to be less because you're regulated, and you have to understand what the spectrum of that is and where you lay within that. But even within that, even within a very highly regulated environment, in this day and age, we need to encourage the ideas bubbling up from the bottom, bubbling up from our workers, bubbling up from the people that are at the business end of the machine. So again, I think you make a great point. Push it to the limits which you can, and see what you can accomplish, because that's really going to ultimately determine the success or failure.
And if you're a manager, you got to communicate. If you want employees to have ideas and to be part of the solution, be part of what the company's doing, you've got to communicate to them that it's okay to do that. You've got to encourage it.
Yeah, you got to absolutely do. So that's Thank you, David. David Schwinn.
David Schwinn's a great writer. He's
great writer.
Very,
and I'm really looking forward to his book.
Very human.
Really looking forward to the transformational workplace, because that's going to be a really interesting book. And that should be coming out soon. So look out for that. Cool.
Okay, well, we're kind of wrapping up this week, but want to give you a heads up for a story next week. Who studies quality management in high school? I certainly didn't.
I did not.
But one of the stories next week from Jeff Dewar and Christine Bammert is a story about a remarkable quality movement centered in South Asia that has tentacles that reach to the USA, Europe, and Africa, and might I say actually right into Quality Digest, strangely enough. Starting in primary school and extending throughout high school, students are introduced to the teachings of, get this, Deming, Juran, Crosby, Ishikawa, and other great figures of quality. And this is high school, and actually even earlier than high school. Find out more about this story by Jeff Dewar and Christine Bamert next week in Quality Digest Daily. And there's a great 4.5 minute video that goes with it that's awesome.
We just showed some of it. We just showed a clip of it. Yeah,
this is fascinating.
That's the ICSQCC, the International Convention for Student Quality Control Circles. It goes way beyond quality quality control and quality circles, but the idea of quality management being taught to students at that age. And these kids...
It's quality management, but it's actually even quality concepts. It's actually
quality living.
And actually, if you listen to these kids talk, it's an ethos of quality. It's kind of like, well, you want to do the right thing, right? It's like, well, yeah, okay, right.
It's amazing. I mean, these kids.
It was.
These kids are amazing, amazing kids. And you listen to them, and you may fear a little bit for what they're doing there that we're not doing here. But it's interesting to see what's happening.
And it's exciting. I mean, these are kids that are not only versed but excited about the idea of doing things right the first time.
Being good citizens.
It's all part of it.
Being good professionals.
Being good people. I mean, it's a very holistic.
It is.
Merrick, this is the best way to put it. It's a very holistic approach to quality. It's not just quality management on and let's say an industrial or technical scale. It's quality management in terms of a lifestyle. Fascinating.
So check that out. That story is going to appear next week from Jeff and Christine. That'll be in Quality Digest Daily next week. Okay, well, that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Chuck Pfeffer, for joining us and talking about World Metrology Week. Thank you again to Geomagic, as well as our other sponsors, Brunson and Hubs and TriMet and A&M Precision Measurement for sponsoring our gifts this week on World Metrology Week. We had a fun time with that. And again, come back next week. We have some more great content, and we'll see you then.
We'll see you then.
Thanks.
So long.
Bye.
Thank you.